Colin Jacobson. I'm a violinist and composer based in Brooklyn, in New York. And I've been involved for many years with the Silk Road Ensemble, and that's had a very big impact on me, founded by the cellist Yo-Yo Ma. These days, I don't get to play with them that much because of my other activities and being a father here in Brooklyn, but it has been a very impactful organization as well for me. I'm from a musical family. My father played violin in the Metropolitan Opera for many years. My mom was a freelance flutist in New York. My brother is a cellist and conductor. And the atmosphere we grew up in our living room was one of musician friends coming to play. Many of my parents' colleagues, they would come to our living room and just play music for the joy of it and the community of it. And that was and it looked like so much fun. And we were, as little kids, allowed to stay up late at night during these musical parties if we were reasonably behaved and seemed to be listening to the music. So I think once we were old enough, we started doing similar musical parties involving friends of ours. And a lot of how the nights, the orchestra that we started, grew out of those encounters. That said, we came from a very Western classical upbringing. Maybe the focus I was in was very narrow. And then I happened to, the first person I fell in love with, my first girlfriend, was very open to the world. She was a poet herself. She introduced me to music from all around the world and really influenced me a lot. And then just a few years later, when I was graduating from school, from Juilliard, I got this call from an organization that was starting, Silk Road, and that Yo-Yo, and all I knew was that it was Yo-Yo's idea and that it was a sort of coming together of musicians from all around the world, many different cultural backgrounds. And it caught me at the moment, when I was probably the best sponge possible and really interested in how what I was doing connected to people all around the world. And so we got together at Tanglewood, which is this music festival in Western Massachusetts, about 50 musicians from all along Central Asia, China, Middle East. And that's where I met Kayhan Kalhor, who was, I immediately was attracted to the music that he played, the instrument he played, the Kamanche, Persian spiked fiddle, so related to mine. We use the same strings, we are bowed instruments trying to make our instruments sound like the human voice in different, perhaps, accents, but, so related. And he and Wu Man, the pipa player, and so many others, my ears were just exploding. My head was exploding with new information. And so I just felt like I needed to be this sponge and soak everything in. And we started touring together as a band for about 20 years, and along the way, continued to go deeper into all those traditions that were represented in the Silk Road Ensemble. But Yo-Yo himself was such a huge part of my education after school, and all the musicians who were part of that group sharing generously and just kind of, the ideal sense of a person and how he viewed the world, and trying to find connection meaningfully and being incredibly curious about the world. And that just rubbed off. One of the interesting things is, like, Yo-Yo used to talk about, and one of the reasons he started Silk Road was the idea that when you look deep inside any one tradition, you actually can find the world and find connections to other music. So I think there's that. There's the fact that traditions often develop over many centuries, and do have many, you think of something as only representing one place, but then you look deeper and you find that it's porous and that other things are coming in. But I would say is different about some of the work that I've been involved in is that it's maybe more consciously trying to bring people from different traditions together. So intercultural music, or I think sounds like a good way to describe it. In the early days of Silk Road, one of the after a few years of playing together and playing Kayhan Kalhor's music, um, let's see, then we had the opportunity, myself and one of the other members of both Brooklyn Rider and Silk Road, Nicholas Cords, um, to go visit Kayhan in Iran and to, kind of a cultural exchange for 10 days and to learn more about his music and the culture it comes from and the amazing links between the visual art, the poetry, calligraphy, and music, and how it's just all the philosophy is so interlinked, as in many cultures, but just in a very particular way, it felt. Also, we got to see an Atashgah, an old fire temple right outside the city. And so I came home and felt all this energy towards having played music with Kayhan for a number of years, played his music, gotten a deeper dive into the culture, that I needed to make a gift back. So then I wrote a number of pieces for Kayhan and Brooklyn Rider and Silk Road to do. One piece was called Atashgah. And, I was just trying to capture some of that feeling I had of being there and the echoes of history, the many layers of history that I was feeling there, and just the special thing of being able to be there with him at that time, which was now, 2005, almost 20 years ago. So the world has changed a lot. Um, in a way, it was a hopeful moment, and maybe now is a darker moment for the world. But I still, that the reverberation of being there stays with me. As a musician, I guess if you would say my primary motivation is curiosity about music, but that involves people. So actually, I always go back and forth. Is it the music or the people, or people, the music? It's both, they're intertwined. Um, but I think that, yes, like I think that the space that, once again, it's a space that is created when people are on stage. And if you are, you can literally model on stage a different world. It's a model. It's like if these people can do this on stage together, then perhaps it can happen in another setting, And there's no more direct communication that talks about a truth beyond this current moment that we're all in. So yeah, one of the other projects that is this kind of cross-cultural music making that I look back very fondly on is with Magos Herrera, a Mexican jazz and folk singer from Mexico City, lives in Brooklyn now, actually lives in New York City now. We had an album called and project called Dreamers, and in that we were looking at songs from the Latin American songbook. You know, some of the great songs from Brazil, from Argentina, Mexico, Chile, from the 1960s to the 80s, over the time of many military dictatorships there. And we weren't looking at protest songs. We were just looking at, wow, how is it that such beauty, you know, could grow in difficult soil? And so that was another example, and that was with, you know, a great vocalist. And I think, you know, with her or with Kehan, or if anytime you're looking outside of your tradition, I think it's important that you have a guide who's very generous and is able to bring you deeply inside another tradition and is a tradition bearer themselves, but also is interested in that space outside of what they do regularly. So we've been very lucky with all the collaborators over the years. Music is one of the best ways to talk to something larger than ourselves, and something that can look backwards in time to a different place. It can look forward in time. It can cross boundaries. You can travel with it without leaving your home or the concert hall. And in a way, it's a very safe space that can happen. A stage is a very safe place to play, you know, and as adults or kids, we need that space to play and to be able to say things that we might not if we didn't have that space around it. I do yearn for a world where people, you know, can get together. I don't like conflict. I really don't. I like people I like juxtaposition. I like that the idea that some things are dissonant with each other, because if everything is consonant all the time in music, it's boring, you know. And I like where things are layered, and I like when music doesn't hammer you over the head with meaning, that it leaves gray, because that is the way the world is. But that said, I guess I do feel essentially my nature is hopeful and optimistic about some aspects of the human condition, and that love will hopefully win in the world at some point, you know?